So yeah, we'll look at 1C here.
That's why you put it in that.
Can you go over?
Mm-hmm. So they tell us that in 1C, so those of you guys online were questioning that one.
Never mind. Okay.
All right. So it goes from 1 to 9. It says using n equals 2 rectangles. That means there's only 2 rectangles with a width of 4. So what that means then is we basically are looking at the value at, at 5, right? Is that 4 wide then? So we're looking at the rectangles here and then there. So we really don't care about the in-between, essentially. So I'm going to go up to 63. So 63. At 5, it's 11. And then at 9, it's negative 9. I forgot it was negative. Should be closer there. So we need to draw 2 rectangles with a right-hand endpoint. So what that means is we're going to use this rectangle, but then also this one under here. Does that make sense? Yeah, is that what you guys did too? Okay, you're agreeing with me, so my math just must be wrong. So we have to look at f of 5, which is 11, but we have to multiply that by 4. Oops, what was that? I don't even know what that did. All right, so we have to look at the width of 4, and then this one's negative 9 with a width of 4. So this will be 44, right? And then negative 36. So that's why I'm wrong.
I accidentally multiplied.
I might have been looking at, I'm wondering if I was looking at 4. I don't know what I was doing. But, so positive 8. Is that what we did? Okay, thanks. All right. Good news is we're just going to do the second half of this lesson today. It is really similar. It's just now they're not going to give us the table we have to find in the table, which really isn't very hard because you guys already know how to evaluate expressions like this. So hopefully it's a pretty light day, pretty short note day here.
And then tomorrow I'm gonna get up early and go to some weight rooms and like an hour straight. Like I eat for 3 hours straight. And that's important. Because I can still do after that. I can still do like a pound over because I was doing that every day. And I have a pound over.
So if you are
Yeah, no. But if I'm like on weight, then I'm using hungry now. It's just a vibe, you know. You kind of gotta like live like a snack. Did I eat? Yeah.
I'm slowly gonna walk.
I had
tomorrow morning. I'm just gonna bring a piece.
Yesterday I had 2 pieces of pizza, a cookie, a cookie, and like some stir fry. That was it.
Pieces of pizza and cookies.
I had like half a chicken sandwich. It was half the chicken sandwich. Oh, and I had some high seas, a lot of high seas. Yeah. Like the little juice box, and I was just like, it was probably that.
Yeah.
But they're so good. The orange drink.
Self-control.
The orange drink.
we're gonna talk about today how to basically set this up if they don't give us the table already. But also what they're gonna do is maybe not stick to particular whole number values as our like x values. So we're gonna talk about what that would do to our situation or our function or whatever. So we only have a couple of examples because we're just gonna do the back side of the homework that went with this, and I think it's gonna go pretty like well based off of, seems like this is going okay for you guys. Again, I'm not in a huge hurry. We're doing pretty well on time for finishing up what we need to for this semester. So, but at the same time, we have to probably learn something each day. Just don't have to like, you know, be rushing at the end here. So, we're not getting a test in before break, so don't worry about that. We will have one after break and then the exam. So one more test and the exam in here. So for this function, they say calculate that Riemann sum over the intervals. They tell us what interval to use, but then they tell us the h is 0.25. So what that's telling us is the width of our rectangles, which means that if you think about this from 0 to 2, we're gonna have some like not just whole numbers as like a part of our table here. So I'm gonna actually set up the table here. What might be good is to figure out what n is, because we want to figure out how many rectangles we actually need, so I'm not making a whole bunch of boxes here. So remember, we basically figure out how much time we're like how many like seconds we're covering or how much the interval is. We divide it by the n, and that should equal h, which in this case is 0.25. So this is 2 over n equals 0.25. Oops. So how many rectangles should there be? 0.25 is a 4. So there should be 8 rectangles. So that might be good to realize. Otherwise, just realizing the width is 0.25, we're just going to do that as our like interval or our units that we're going to use. Now you might think, well, wait, that's 9. Again, remember when we talk about the rectangles, it's the space between, so there's actually 8 there. So to figure this out, this just means we have to kind of plug and chug with numbers here. So we're putting those values in to the equation and figuring out what comes out of that. So the nice whole numbers are probably not bad to do. I'll do those while you guys are doing some of the other ones. 3 minus 1 is 2. 8 times 3 is 24 minus 1 is 23. I have a few of them on there.
I'm gonna at lunch. I'm just gonna stand up and scream at. They're not gonna be at lunch.
You can go to lunch detention with Garrett.
I'm gonna spoil no way home at lunch. You're right. Yeah, I am.
I'm not surprised you're that kid.
It's just a movie. Why do you listen to that?
Because it's annoying.
Well,
Like
it's
it's
just a
just
movie.
annoying.
It's just a movie. I'm joking. But the urge to is very.
Just like flip the table over.
Yeah.
Oh, that should be it, right? And I'm just rounding to the tens place because otherwise it probably gets ridiculous here.
Okay, you want to know?
Not really.
Wait. Let me guess. Yeah. No. Dang it.
I'm talking about Spider-Man.
Yeah. No,
Was it good?
Spider-Man isn't good.
I heard it was good,
I
right?
didn't watch it. I just looked
Oh,
at it.
you like looked at the spoilers?
Yeah. Why? Because I don't know. I don't really I'll still end up
You just want to be the guy who spoils the movie for everybody.
I'll still end up watching it, but like I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, I need to like. I don't
Go
care.
see it
Like,
for-
yeah, I like. It's still gonna be cool.
Oh.
And I watch it.
That's because the spoilers turn your first viewing into a second viewing.
Exactly. So it's still different.
I heard if you go to the, I haven't seen the new Ghostbusters movie. I heard if you go to that though, you should stay for all the credits. I heard there's like good like outtakes at the end. That's- I feel like that's
like what
important.
Marvel does. With the
Yeah. But I think they went back and like found like some of the original like old footage from the original. All right. Is that you guys got some like those as well? Hopefully my rounding was okay. All right. So now when we're talking about this left endpoint versus right endpoint, same thing. So probably the biggest pain is figuring out the spacing, figuring out how much we need to do, and then hopefully you guys don't need to have to draw this every time. I put the graph on there if you want it. But the left endpoint just means I'm basically going to do the first like 8, and I'm going to drop off at 23. And then the right endpoint means I'm just going to drop off at -1. So the comparison between those two, you know, how it impacts it. So Griffin's team played Sheboygan Lutheran's like 7th graders this weekend.
How's that?
And Sheboygan Lutheran's like youth program coming up is like ridiculous, the guy said, like the basketball, like so they had a kid who was like over 6 feet tall. Like it was really, yeah. And he's like, our youth program coming up is just like stacked. There was a kid who hits like 6 threes in 7th grade. Like
Sounds like they're Hollis girls ball.
it's just like, how does that happen? I mean, I don't know. So it's just crazy.
People just transfer them. 'Cause they're
Yeah.
like, hopes that they
Um,
make it.
And because I knew the guy, like whose kid was really tall. Griffin had played baseball with him once, and like, so he was like filling me in on the kid who shot the 6 threes was like, you probably want to get out. The guy says to me, like, probably have to tell your coach to get out on him. He's going to keep doing that. But, got it. So I got like 92.39. Is that what you got? Did I? Oh, we need to do what though? Yes, thank you. Multiply by h. Yep. And we can do that after the fact. So it's okay to then take that. Thank you for saying that. We still need to multiply it by h. I forgot about that. All of them, or we can do it at the end, because distributive property says we could either multiply it first, or we can combine them first. So 23.1-ish. And yeah, if you guys double check so again, that multiplying by the h value can happen at the beginning or the end. The idea is that you're just distributing that to each term, or you can just distribute it at the end.
Wait, how do you get the first like magnitude point?
Yeah,
I
got 28.8.
Yeah,
Did I?
Yeah,
28.7.
I don't know what I did. I must have done something
I
wrong.
got 28 points.
That's what I get for talking, YM.
I got 7.
Oh, because I did -63 and not -0.63. That's impressive. Nice.
I got 7.6.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 8.
I don't know, I keep getting 7.6.
I say it's good. Yeah. No, it's okay.
This is
We're okay. We're almost done.
Yeah. Yeah, we're almost done. 8
I think
minutes.
it's just
we still
where
have
you're
the
at.
back page.
No, we're only.
The whole back page.
We're only doing the front. Let's go.
No.
I went to yoga yesterday, and they called it advanced napping.
Also,
Because
picture
it's
for
very
1.75 is it's more
guys get 30.02?
Oh, that's a zero, it's just a very,
I got 28.
the zero looks like it's a one, the zero looks like a one.
28 point,
I got 7.6.
oh my gosh.
Wait, what is?
Did you round the same way as me throughout?
Sarah, did you write that as 5.18 or 5.0?
It should be 0.
Oh, 0.
You guys are in the back row.
Then 7.6. Yeah.
7.6?
So that goes right.
I was right.
Nice job.
Thanks, Stone,
Thanks,
for figuring that out.
Well, it was actually Kat.
And then did you have to still multiply by 0.25 though, right?
I just said the bucket.
Yeah, and she said thank you for pointing that out, but Cash was the one who pointed it out. I just said it.
Oh, you said it louder. Thanks, Cash.
Because you weren't hearing them, so.
Okay. So the basic math is what got me, so. Great. And talking with.
Same values, and
You guys get 52.76? Okay.
For some reason, okay, so it accidentally went to the back because the files are to the back, so I flipped it. And for some reason, I've got two different values, like 30. I don't know why it did.
What do you talking about, Cash?
For 6 8 on the back.
Use the range of
I'm pretty sure it's the same values.
Oh, I didn't even realize that is off the homework already.
But here, 29.75. I don't know I'm doing wrong.
Did you compare your two tables? Like, look at the tables again, Cash? I don't know. Alright. So here's your little Christmas gift. Cash just noticed that this exact problem is on your homework sheet.
Let's go.
So all of you complaining that we have two problems to do.
So we could only do the front.
No, we're still doing the back.
What's the point if we already do it?
No, this one is already on the homework.
So we literally just did one of our homework problems.
We just did one of our
Come
homework
back
tasks.
isn't our homework.
Yeah, but why would we do it?
I'm trying to say that I'm giving you less. 'Cause
So, do we have to rewrite it on our homework?
no.
Let's go.
There we go.
Let's go. Alright, wait.
So part of it is I wrote that worksheet, or I had the worksheet, and then I wrote these last night, and so I didn't connect the two examples. So I'm sorry. I saw that
No,
example.
don't be sorry.
Don't be sorry. You're over it.
We're happy.
All right. So if you guys are ready, you can flip the note sheet over. We're gonna do the back side.
Wait, which one was this whole thing on the homework? Oh, okay.
Is there any more problems on the homework?
Yeah, there's like one or two. I think two. So this is like this is anyway.
You ran across the state of Wisconsin?
No, like not really. Virtually, like over, like they gave you like, they told you the distances, and then you like
Oh.
had to like compile your distance. It was like over the course of,
Okay, that makes sense.
so, yeah. It was during COVID, so it was like something to do, and you like
Yeah.
got to track your mileage with somebody else. I ran across the state of Tennessee the same way. Didn't really go there. It's kind of lame, but you get a
You
sweatshirt.
shouldn't say that. You should just
Be like, yeah.
All in one go too.
I didn't even stop for a drink.
No food or water or bathroom breaks. Just running.
So on Christmas Eve morning, my Mrs. Weeks made a route for our running group, and it's the shape of a ring.
running group?
Yeah, like we get together on Saturdays and
Just the
run.
teachers?
No, like Mrs. Weeks just happens to be in my running group that,
Oh.
or I invited her, I think, to come. It's in Cedarburg, but she made a route for us. It's the shape of a reindeer, so we run that on Christmas Eve morning. I'll have to show you. It's really cute. So, all right. So cyclist velocity in the last 5 seconds of a race is given by this equation. Estimate the distance traveled in these 5 seconds where our n is 5. So again, same idea where, so the number of period, like rectangles is gonna be 5, but if it's the last 5 seconds, we're gonna go from 0 to 5. Or you can go 5 back down to 0, but we're gonna go 0 to 5.
What about example 1B?
What's that?
We did that.
We did that one, Cash.
Oh, I wasn't paying.
That
I
was, this
busy.
is left and then right.
I was busy erasing the
Okay.
slides.
Try to stay with us here. So when I go to put time in as 0, it's going to start at 36 here. So that will be the velocity if we call on that time 0. And then again, these are going to be decimals again. I'm going to go 2 decimal places. Sorry, probably want to write this down on your own sheet as well. My little squares are getting smaller. So at the end, speeding up, they're at 60 miles an hour at the last second. So I don't even know if it's possible, but just go with it. Now this time, do we have to multiply by anything? Is there, how wide are the rectangles?
1.
They're just 1. So we don't have to worry about multiplying by anything. We're going to do the left-handed endpoint and then a right-handed endpoint, but then we're going to talk about why 1 is actually kind of a little bit better than the other in this case. So, so our left-handed endpoint, we're going to look at and you might be able to tell that like why 1 is better than the other just by looking at the table, I'm hoping. I don't trust myself. Did you get 208.8?
Yeah.
And then it's the distance traveled. I guess they don't tell us. I'm assuming like meters or something. All right, why would 1 be better than the other? Can you guys tell? Why would 1 be a better estimate than the other?
Because,
What do you think?
because they're not moving at 0.
You're not moving at 0. Well, he's already, these last 5 seconds, so actually he is. He's already going 36 miles an hour, so like he's speeding up.
I thought it was like 0 to 5.
Yeah, it's just like they're just giving us that as us, like he's already going at that point. Yeah, I know that's a little.
So then it's the other one then. For some reason.
What do you guys think? There is a reason why 1 makes more sense.
A makes more sense, right? The left hand.
I don't think so.
Well, you just told me I was wrong with you.
No, your explanation was bad. So if we go to draw this, so if we go to, so if we go to draw this, this is the shape of this graph. It's going up, it's getting like faster, faster, and then all of a sudden it gets really, really fast. If we use a left-hand endpoint, we leave out this last like really speedy part, whereas here it's like these are so close together, we're gonna have a bigger gap. So if we actually draw this as like rectangles, we're missing like this big section versus going the other way, or sorry, no, we're missing the section that way. But if you go, because that's not actually part of the graph, this way we're missing a huge chunk of the graph. So I think because these two are so close together and that he's easing into it, I think we want to get up to the higher speed. So let me see if I can show this. I don't know if the graph would be helpful for this. Let me see. 'Cause obviously it's not as obvious, I guess, as I thought. And then do you guys remember what we said about making more rectangles? Is more rectangles helpful
Yes.
for estimation? So yeah, if they, like, the next question asks, if we increase the number of rectangles, would that like change our, and it would make it more accurate, closer to the actual.
Not this thing, like
I know.
It's like the one time I actually.
I know you have it.
Okay.
You have to. You have to. Where were you?
Did you have it for me last?
I'm actually
I can get it. Do you want to touch me?
Can you give Garrett another attention? He always does.
So, would you
Give Garrett another attention.
So, what's like a microphone?
All right.
Is it actually in there again?
No way. No way.
What?
You put it in the liquid one day?
You don't remember that?
Yeah, the first time
He
we
wasn't
took it,
there.
it was in the bookshelf and we put it in the microwave.
Let me see.
Someone took someone's phone again.
I was trying to go there.
Here, it's not funny.
Katie, would you like to touch me some?
Not
Give
so-
give everyone this last
I didn't take it. What did Bennett do?
So what I'm trying to point out to you guys is if we use the left-hand endpoint, we're missing this big chunk of the graph, whereas if you go right-hand endpoint, I guess I think I'd want to overestimate rather than underestimate, because we get that chunk in. Otherwise, we'd be missing all that graph. So typically, if it's concave, you want to use the right endpoint. So hopefully, we'll try and explain that a little bit more as we work through this. But you guys can get working on your worksheet again. Number 6 again is basically already done. But so you have like 2 questions, lamest homework ever. Hopefully, you guys can use your time wisely.